Hari Om Tat Sat Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Shubhubnishad Uvacha Apichet Suduracharo Bhajate Mam Ananya Bhak Sadureva Samantavyaha Samyag Vyavasito hi saha. Even if one of extremely bad conduct worships me with exclusive devotion, they are to be regarded as righteous because they are rightly resolved. It is too late for me. I am too far gone. My soul, so blackened, it is surely already damned. There is no forgiveness or second chances for the likes of me. I've done too much wrong, sinned too much. Only a fool would think the Lord would scrape me from the bottom of the barrel, separate me from the muck and the dirt, and want me. Only a fool would think that I have a chance at redemption. Well, I may or may not be a fool, but I believe chapter 9, verse 30 is saying exactly that. Not that I'm a fool, but that even the vilest of sinners, the most immoral entity, being on the planet that hurts other things, other beings, just for the fun of it, just for the pleasure of seeing something else in pain. Someone that lies, cheats, and steals to get their way, to get what they want, to stomp all over others. Someone that is consumed and covetous of anything and everything else that they see others have and they don't. One that spends every moment, every opportunity overindulging every single sense. If I have not completely misinterpreted chapter 9 verse 30, even this person can become righteous and find their way to the Lord. Even this person the Lord will welcome with open arms, proclaiming that here is a righteous person if that person firmly resolves to dedicate themselves wholeheartedly, unwaveringly, exclusively to the Supreme Lord and the path of righteousness. When we talk about mercy and forgiveness, this does strike me as the absolute pinnacle of forgiveness and mercy, that even the lowest, most immoral human being on the planet, in the universe, is not forsaken, is not beyond redemption, is not lost, is not unforgivable, is not damned, is not shunned by the Lord, but instead, through their own righteous resolve, can turn it around, can turn the table, turn the tide of their trajectory, and choose to point it, direct it, guide it to salvation, to goodness, to redemption, to righteousness. And this feels pretty wild. Is probably why I've repeated it 2 or 3 times, it really hit home. This was one of my big takeaways, because when I reflect on the happenings in my own life, there are things that I look back on and think, random. Oof, you buddy, you should not have done that. Or why on earth did you do that? And I look at these things that I feel within myself were wrong to do, or mistakes that I made, and I think, am I ever going to be able to get out of the shadow of these monumental wrongs of my past? I feel verse 30 is saying, yeah, your past doesn't define your future. And I think that's the beauty of karma. The thought came into my mind is that if I do something bad, if anyone does anything bad, then all right, you've done it. You're going to have to eat that karma. It's going to come back. And with the same intensity of whatever bad action you did is going to hit me back straight with that same intensity. But then it's done is done. I've done a bad deed. I'll eat that karma and then move on. So there's no need for me really to linger on it and think, oh, I did this. I'm never going to outlive it. It's always going to linger over me as a shadow. That's not the case. I'm going to have to eat the karma and then it'll be done. And now it's up to me whether I want to go forward, continuing to make that same mistake and getting more of that same bad karma to come back to me, or do I decide, all right, I'm done with that. I'm going to put that in the past. I'm going to learn from it, and going forward, even if the situation arises again, then I will rise above it. I will find a way, learn to maintain my calm, maintain my peace, understand what is right to do in that moment. And in doing so, I won't accumulate that bad karma ever again. Which I think is massively empowering, because it puts everything in my own hands. Sometimes I feel like, you know what, if when I think about karma, everything that is going to happen is all in my own hands. The more right I do, the more right will come back to me. At the end of the day, I still have to accept that even if from this day forth all I do is right action, then I probably have a fair bit of baggage in the bad karma department that is going to come my way. So if I spend the next year doing only right things, and then all of a sudden get hit with some disastrous event that I'm like, wait a minute, I just spent the last year doing right and good actions. Why is this happening? Well, the answer is I still had baggage to clear. But if in that monumental, disastrous moment, I can maintain my resolve, as it says in verse 30, to continue on the path, or pursue the path, continue my resolve to act righteously at all times, no matter what the circumstance, then bit by bit I will resolve more and more bad karma and build up more and more good karma. Then bit by bit, life will get better. This life or the next life, as the good karma starts coming back to me. And then eventually, once I start placing it all at the Lord's feet, every action, every thought, every word, then karma ceases to be the governing body of my life, or the justice system of my life. And freed from all that, I meet up with the Lord Supreme, and it's high fives all around. I do feel it also helps to break free from that mindset of, you know what, I've already been doing this wrong thing for so long. What does it matter if I just continue doing it? I'm already damned anyway. Or I've already done it for so long now. Can't negate it. Can't undo it. So why bother trying to change it? Which I do feel, if I'm not overstepping, is a little bit of a cop out, a little bit of a way to trick the mind into letting oneself indulge in whatever bad thing it is a little bit more, because like, ah, yeah, no, I want to do this, so this is how I'll justify it in my mind. Whereas chapter 9 verse 30, I believe, encourages one and motivates one to take every second as an opportunity to make the right choice, to change one's habits from bad and sin to good and righteousness. Because it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, this bad deed, doesn't matter how long I've been transgressing, I can always correct my trajectory when I wish to, when I have the willpower, when I make the resolve to do so. The second line, actually, I don't know if I read it wrong the first time, but when I re-looked at it and reread it, and the particular wording of it, it did make me have to rethink what I thought it meant. As the verse starts by saying, even the most immoral, even one of extremely bad conduct, if they turn towards full devotion to the Lord, then they are to be considered righteous. And this is where the wording got particular, because they are rightly resolved. It doesn't say that they already are righteous, they already are good and peaceful and united with me and in full worship of me and devote all their thoughts, words, and actions to me as an offering. Lord Krishna says here, because they are rightly resolved to pursue and seek and worship me with devotion, because of that resolve, they are to already be considered righteous. Now, I don't know if I'm interpreting this correctly. However, that reads to me that at least in the Lord's eyes, in the Lord's words, they consider anyone and everyone that has made the determined effort and resolve in their own mind to steadfastly and unceasingly seek the Lord and to make every thought, word, and action a devotional offering to them, then that person, even if they have not yet managed to make their whole life worship and an offering at the Lord's feet, even if they still slip and fall, even if they still do bad things, say bad things, and have bad thoughts, if that person has made a determined effort and resolve to start changing, to try and minimize all these bad thoughts, words, and actions, to transform them into good ones, and then to transform those good thoughts and words and actions into an offering, if they've made that resolve, they are to be considered righteous. And I do feel that is a massive comfort, thinking about just my own life. I think, whatever resolve I've made, I know that I slip and fall. But then in the second line, to have that reassurance, have that knowing that just because I do slip and fall here and there, that doesn't mean all my efforts are to waste and it's back to square one with you, you unrighteous vermin. Lord Krishna here, I believe, says instead, no, you are righteous. You're still righteous. Even if you slipped and you've fallen, even if you've taken a wrong turn here and there, you're still righteous in my eyes. It is the fact that you have made the resolve and you're making the effort and that you are in hot pursuit. That is what makes you righteous. And the thought came into my mind is, imagine if someone comes up to you and says, oh yes, my friend, they've gone to war with immorality. They've gone to do battle with all bad conduct. You might ask, oh, why? Why did they do that? And they reply, simply because they thought it was the right thing to do. I feel in this situation, if they'd gone in with the right wisdom and knowledge and intent, with a pure heart and mind, I'd say, yeah, that is a noble goal. That is a righteous cause and a righteous fight and a righteous person for going head to head with these things. And if I then go to the battlefield and I see that they are losing, they're getting it handed to them, they're getting whipped, I wouldn't then consider them unrighteous, that they are losing the battle in this moment. In fact, knowing that their cause is noble, knowing that they are pure of heart and mind, I join them in the hopes that together we can gain the upper hand over a foe that I too want vanquished. Regardless of whether they are winning or losing their fight, regardless if at the end they are victorious or they are defeated, personally, I would consider that warrior a righteous person for having the wisdom, the bravery, the courage, the determination, the resolve to go to battle and try and vanquish these evil foes. In conclusion, the word resolve stuck in my brain a bit because I think this is key. Resolve. And in my mind, I feel only each individual knows how strongly they have resolved to do something, how committed they are to it, how much determination, how much willpower they are directing towards achieving this goal that they have resolved to achieve. And this is one of my practical take homes, is that every so often to look back and reflect on whatever goals I have set and how far I'm progressing, and really analyze and introspect on how much effort and determination and willpower and time have I been giving to it, really. Then add all of that effort, willpower, determination, resolve together and see what the sum comes to. And if it is something that I'm happy with, I'm like, yeah, I'm progressing nicely. Maybe I've even achieved it. Great. On those occasions where I do all the additions and the end value isn't quite right, hasn't quite added up to the goal, I feel in these situations, I can probably, through reflection, through introspection, go back and look at all the bits and bobs that are in the initial sum and analyze each one. And as I do so, I would say more often than not, it isn't a simple case of a calculation error. Less likely to be a simple misreading of the values in the sum. Like, yes, here I misread this one. There's actually a 0 on the end that I missed. I think that's less likely. I think more likely in these situations, I will probably identify something within the sum itself that I know within myself. I'll be like, yes, okay, here, and here, my willpower, my determination, my self-discipline isn't where I know personally within myself where it needs to be if I want the sum to add up to this and to be able to achieve this goal. And once I've identified what values of the sum aren't quite strong enough, aren't quite high enough to reach my goal that I can improve on, I can start increasing the values, start increasing the effort, the focus on those values, to firm up my resolve, to make it more genuine, to make it more heartfelt, to set my mind to it with greater intensity, to ensure that my thoughts, words, and actions are indeed in alignment with my resolve and goal. So that when I next calculate the sum of my resolve, purity of mind and body, plus contentment, plus self-discipline, plus self-study, plus devotion to the Lord, equals